Ever get that like weird feeling when you walk by a building with those super reflective windows
Mhm.
and you like instinctively check your hair or something? It's so strange. For a split second, you're totally aware that someone, could be watching you.
Right.
Well, that whole feeling is actually what we're going to be diving into today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we're looking at this article called AI, Crime, and the Panopticon.
Yeah.
It's all about how crime is like evolving, I guess you could say, in the age of all these crazy algorithms.
I actually read that one. It's a really interesting piece. It connects that feeling of being watched that we were just talking about to this concept called the Panopticon. It was a prison design from way back in the 18th century.
Okay, hold up. Before we get into like the whole AI thing, let's break down this Panopticon thing.
Hmm.
I'm getting some like serious Orwellian vibes here.
Yeah, I can see why you're not totally wrong to think that. So imagine a circular prison.
Okay.
And in the middle, there's this central watchtower. All the prison cells are like arranged around the tower.
Right.
So the guards in the tower, they can see every single prisoner, but the prisoners can't see into the tower.
Sneaky.
Right. So
Yeah.
they never actually know if they're being watched.
Mm.
But that possibility is always there.
So it's like less about actual bars and more about like messing with the prisoners' heads.
Totally. The Panopticon wasn't just about physical control. It was about psychological influence. The prisoners, they basically self-regulate because they could be under surveillance at any given moment. And the article makes this really interesting argument that this whole Panopticon concept is like way more relevant now than ever. And it's because of AI.
Because of AI? Like how so?
Well, think about all the data that's being collected on all of us, right? Constantly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So instead of a watchtower, we've got, I don't know, what would you even call them? Like AI factories crunching all our data. AI factories. That's actually a pretty good way to picture it. The article doesn't use that term, but yeah, it's like these massive data centers. They're collecting information on everything, what we do online, what we buy, even like where we go.
That's a little creepy.
Yeah, it's like this virtual panopticon. We're all under some sort of digital surveillance.
So that creepy feeling I get when I fix my hair in a reflective window, that's actually happening to me all the time online.
In a way, yeah. But the thing is, AI takes it a step further, right? It doesn't just observe, it learns from all that data about our behavior.
Oh.
And then, that knowledge can be used to, well, manipulate us in some really subtle ways.
Hold on. How can AI actually manipulate us? Give me an example. It's not like some robot's going to like force me to buy some shoes I don't need.
No, it's not that dramatic. AI manipulation is way more subtle than that. Think about those times you're online and you get an email about something you were just thinking about.
Oh, yeah. All the time.
That's not just a coincidence. That's AI, right? Using all that data about your browsing history to target you with super personalized ads. Or, like, how about social media? Think about how those algorithms work, right? Curating your newsfeed, showing you content that's designed to, well, keep you scrolling.
Oh, I hate when I realize I've fallen into that trap.
It happens to all of us. So basically, AI is kind of playing with our minds, right?
Oh, a bit, yeah.
It's exploiting our natural tendencies.
You're going to hit me with some psych jargon now, aren't you?
Not quite. They're called heuristics.
The heuristics.
Yeah, think of them as mental shortcuts, like rules of thumb we use to make decisions quickly.
Okay, I think I get that.
Remember that example from the article about the mother turkey?
Oh, yeah. That was crazy. Remind me.
Okay, so mother turkeys, they have this like hardwired instinct to respond to the cheep cheep sound their chicks make, right? Well, so these researchers, they took a stuffed predator, a cat, and put a speaker in it that played cheep cheep sounds.
No way.
And guess what? The mother turkey, totally driven by her instinct, she starts nurturing the stuffed cat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it shows just how powerful these heuristics are,
Yeah.
and how easily they can be manipulated.
Okay, that is kind of freaky. But I still don't see how this connects back to, like, AI and crime.
Okay, so think of it this way. AI is like that researcher with the stuffed cat, right? It's figuring out what cheep, cheep sound will get us to do what it wants. It analyzes our data, figures out our heuristics, and then uses that knowledge to nudge us in a certain direction.
So, like, when I buy something online on impulse because I'm afraid it'll sell out, that's my cheap, and the AI is playing it to make me spend money.
Exactly. And the thing is, this whole manipulation thing, it's often invisible to us. We think we're making our own choices, but in reality, our decisions are being like influenced by algorithms. They're designed to exploit our weaknesses, you know?
Okay, this is starting to feel a little matrixy, if I'm being honest. Like,
Oh.
how much control do we even have if AI is always pulling the strings?
That is the question, isn't it? And it's a big one for sure. It's something we'll keep exploring in this deep dive for
Yeah.
sure. But, the article does point to one possible solution, and it's kind of wild. They talk about AI fighting AI.
Wait, what? Like, robots dueling it out in cyberspace? Is this a sci-fi movie?
Uh-huh. It does sound kind of far out, right? But it's already happening in some ways. Think about those targeted ads we were talking about, right?
Okay, yeah.
Companies use AI to bid on ad space. So they're competing against each other, trying to get their message in front of you. It's basically like an algorithmic arms race. Yeah, so the article suggests we can use that same principle, that same competition to combat this AI-driven manipulation, right? So like develop AI systems that are specifically designed to protect us from these malicious algorithms.
So like a good AI bodyguard.
Ah, yeah, something like that. These AI systems, they'd analyze data, look for manipulation patterns, and then like intervene to protect us.
Okay, so to recap, we're moving from a world where crime was all about physical force to a world where it's all about psychological manipulation. And AI is the weapon of choice.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary. But the good news is we're not totally powerless in this whole thing. We can fight AI with AI. And that's where things get interesting for you, dear listener. Because this new battleground, it's going to create a huge demand for a new kind of expert, the AI heuristic cybersecurity specialist.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. What exactly does an AI heuristic cybersecurity specialist do?
So imagine like a digital detective. But this detective, they don't just understand how AI systems work, right? They also have this deep understanding of human psychology, especially all those heuristics we were talking about, those vulnerabilities.
So they're like a hybrid of a tech whiz and a mind reader.
Haha, kinda, yeah. They have to be able to think like a hacker and a psychologist, you know? They need to understand how AI might be used to manipulate people and then develop strategies to stop those threats.
Wow, this is blowing my mind. Dear listener, if you're out there looking for a career that is future-proof, this might be it.
It's definitely a field with a ton of potential, that's for sure. But, there's another layer to this that we need to think about. Even if we have this benevolent AI fighting on our side, there's still the question of oversight.
Yeah, like who guards the guards?
Exactly. How do we ensure that even the AI designed to protect us doesn't become a tool for manipulation itself?
Ooh, that's a good point. It's like we're trading one Panopticon for another, but instead of a human warden calling the shots, it's an algorithm.
And that's why this whole discussion is so important. The future of AI, it's not predetermined. It's something we're all actively shaping right now. With every click, every purchase, every interaction we have online. It's up to all of us to make sure that future is one where AI empowers us, not controls us.
Whoa, okay. We've gone from like creepy mirrored windows to mother turkeys taking care of stuffed cats, and now
Yeah.
we're talking about AI overlords,
Ah, yeah.
all in like 20 minutes.
It's been quite a journey.
Before we like totally lose it, maybe we should take a step back for a sec
Yeah.
and like think about what all of this really means, you know? Where do we even draw the line with AI like influencing us?
Mhm.
Is it okay if it, I don't know, nudges us to make healthier choices, or
Sure.
does that cross into like manipulation territory?
That's a really great question. And it's a question that, a lot of people are thinking about right now, ethicists, policymakers. There's definitely a fine line between like persuading someone and coercing them.
Yeah.
And AI is making that line, well, kind of blurry.
Yeah, it really does feel like we're in this like Wild West phase of technology, you know,
Yeah, totally.
where the rules haven't caught up yet.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. And just like in the Wild West, you've got some folks out there who are, taking advantage of the situation. We're already seeing AI being used for some pretty shady stuff, like sophisticated scams and hyper-targeted phishing attacks, even spreading disinformation.
Oh, yeah, that's scary. So what can we do about it? Like as everyday people, do we just have to, I don't know, accept that AI is going to be used for good and bad and there's nothing we can really do?
I wouldn't say that. You're not powerless. We're the ones, feeding these systems with data. We can demand more transparency from these companies that are developing AI, push for regulations that protect our privacy, our autonomy.
Yeah.
And I think most importantly, we can educate ourselves about how AI works. So we can't be manipulated as easily.
Okay, yeah, I get that. Knowledge is power. But it does feel like we're always playing catch up with tech, you know? By the time we understand all the risks, it's like already too late.
I get that. That's a valid concern. But, the good news is more and more people are starting to pay attention to the ethical side of AI. There are organizations popping up everywhere dedicated to, making sure AI is developed responsibly.
So it's not all doom and gloom. There's hope for a future where AI is actually used to make things better.
Oh, for sure. AI has the potential to revolutionize everything. Healthcare, education, even how we fight climate change. The list goes on.
Yeah.
But it's up to us to make sure those benefits are, shared fairly and that AI is developed with our values in mind, right?
Speaking of values, one thing that really stuck out to me in that article was how much it emphasized the importance of, like, human oversight. Even with AI doing all this amazing stuff, we still need human judgment, intuition, empathy, things algorithms just don't have. At least not yet, anyway.
I totally agree. And it brings us back to this whole idea of AI heuristic cybersecurity. It's not just about like building better firewalls or whatever. It's about understanding that human element, those psychological weaknesses that AI can take advantage of.
So we need those, you call them digital detectives, those folks who get the tech side and the human side.
Yeah, exactly. Think about it like this. A regular detective, they examine a crime scene for clues, right? Fingerprints, evidence.
Right.
But they also try to understand the psychology of the criminal, their motives, their behavior. An AI heuristic cybersecurity specialist, they do the same thing, but in the digital world.
Wow. This conversation is really making me think bigger, beyond just crime, like the way we interact with tech is fundamentally changing. It's not just about tools anymore. It's about systems that are constantly learning about us, adapting to us, and yeah, maybe even trying to influence us.
Exactly. That's why it's so important that we're talking about this stuff now. Before things go too far, we have to be thinking critically about AI's role in our lives, right? How do we make sure it serves us, not the other way around?
That's a huge question. How do we even wrap our heads around something as complex as AI? It feels so overwhelming.
It can be, for sure. But even just like being aware of the issue is a great first step. Once you start paying attention, you see AI in action everywhere, Personalized ads that follow you around online, the news feeds that seem to know exactly what'll keep you scrolling. It's all algorithms.
You're right. It's like we're all part of this giant social experiment and we don't even realize it.
That's why it's so important to stay informed, Question everything. Be skeptical, especially online. Who's controlling the information you see? What are their motives? Are they trying to, play on your emotions, bypass your logic? These are the questions we all need to be asking ourselves constantly.
Okay, you're making me a little paranoid. But also I feel empowered, maybe? Like,
Wow.
knowing what to look for makes me feel less like a pawn in this whole AI game.
And that's the whole point. It's not about being afraid of AI. It's about understanding it. The future of AI, it's not set in stone. It's something we're all shaping together. And the more people who are informed and engaged in this conversation, the better the outcome for everyone.
I love that. We're all shaping it. This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the power of AI, but also to the responsibility that comes with it. This isn't just a tech issue. It's a human issue. It's about power, responsibility, and the choices we make as individuals and as a society.
I couldn't agree more. And it's what makes this topic so fascinating. AI is already shaping our world in some really profound ways, and that influence is only going to grow.
So what can our listeners do? What's the main takeaway message you want them to, I don't know, walk away with?
I think the most important thing is to be aware, Pay attention to how AI is being used in your life. Ask questions, be critical, and don't be afraid to speak up and demand better.
I love that.
Yeah.
Be aware, ask questions, and demand better. Those are words to live by in the digital world and beyond.
Absolutely. And remember, the future of AI isn't set in stone. It's something we're all shaping together.
It's crazy,
I know.
right?
Well,
We started this whole deep dive talking about feeling watched when you see your reflection in a window.
Yeah.
And now we're here talking about AI being this all-seeing, all-knowing force.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It's wild.
For sure.
But I think you're right. It all comes back to that idea of control, right? Like, how do we deal with a world where technology is so intertwined with our lives?
It's a big question. We've talked about a lot of different things, but I think it all comes back to that idea of control. Yeah.
Totally. And that makes me think about what you said before about human oversight being so important.
Right.
Even if we have all this, like, good AI on our side,
Yeah.
how do we make sure it doesn't, I don't know, become the thing it's supposed to protect us from?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's an easy answer. But I think a big part of it comes down to transparency.
Transparency.
Yeah, like we need to be able to see how these AI systems are making decisions,
Yeah.
What data are they using? What are their goals? It can't just be a black box.
Yeah, that makes sense. But, like, how do we make that happen? These systems are super complex. Most people, me included, wouldn't even know where to begin to understand them.
I get it. It can feel pretty overwhelming. But remember, we're the ones using this technology, right? We have a voice. We can demand more transparency from those companies developing AI, push for laws that make them explain how their algorithms work.
So it's about, like, holding those companies accountable.
Yeah. Making sure they're not just doing their own thing without thinking about the consequences.
Yeah.
And it's not just about companies either. We need bigger conversations, as a society. About AI ethics, what values we want to put into these systems, what kind of future we want to build.
It's interesting. The more we talk about all of this, the more I realize that this isn't just a tech issue. It's a human issue.
Yeah.
It's about power, responsibility, and the choices we make.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
So what can our listeners do? What's the big takeaway message here?
Be aware. That's the most important thing. Pay attention to how AI is being used in your life. Ask questions. Be critical. And don't be afraid to speak up. Demand better.
Love that. Be aware, ask questions, demand better. Those are some good words to live by.
Yeah, I think so. And remember, the future of AI, it's not set in stone. It's something we're all building together.
Wow. This deep dive has really been eye-opening. I feel like I have this whole new perspective on AI.
That's great to hear.
I feel fired up. I want to be more aware, more involved in this whole conversation.
Awesome. Knowledge is power. The more we understand this stuff, the better off we'll all be.
Totally. So, for everyone listening out there, don't just let this wash over you. Think about it, talk about it, and let's all work together to build a future where AI is a force for good for everyone.
Yeah, let's do it.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into AI, crime, and the Panopticon. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged.